Clara's fingers dug into her little brother's arm so hard her knuckles turned white. Eli was shaking beside her, his crippled leg dragging against the wooden platform as the auctioneer shoved them forward like cattle. "Nobody wants a lame boy." A man in the crowd laughed. "Sell the girl separate. She's the only one worth anything." Clara pulled Eli closer, her voice breaking. "You'll have to kill me first." That's when the stranger in black pushed through the crowd. If you want to know what happens next, subscribe to our channel and comment which city you're watching from. Let's see how far Clara's story travels. The summer of 1878 had been cruel to Cedar Hollow, Texas, but nothing was crueler than what Clara May Thornton faced on that sweltering July afternoon. She stood on the auction platform outside the county courthouse, her brother's hand gripped tight in hers. Eli was trying not to cry. At 16, he thought himself too old for tears, but Clara could feel him trembling against her side. His weight shifted onto his good leg while the withered one hung useless beneath him. "Step forward, girl," the auctioneer barked. "Let 'em see what they're bidding on." Clara didn't move. The auctioneer, a thick-necked man named Horace Pickens, grabbed her arm and yanked her toward the edge of the platform. Eli stumbled, nearly falling, and Clara caught him with both hands. "Don't you touch him," she hissed. Pickens laughed. "Got spirit, this one. Might fetch a decent price after all." The crowd below numbered about 40 men, most of them ranchers and farmers, looking for cheap labor. A few had brought their wives who watched from the shade of shop awnings with expressions ranging from pity to disgust. "All right, gentlemen," Pickens announced, consulting his papers. "We got here Miss Clara Thornton, age 24, educated, can read, write, and do figures. Her daddy was the school teacher before he up and died, owing Cornelius Blackwood's bank $300. A murmur ran through the crowd. "And this here's her brother." Pickens jerked his thumb toward Eli. "Elijah Thornton, 16 years old, crippled in the left leg. Can't do much heavy work, but he's got 2 good hands." "What happened to his leg?" someone called out. "Horse threw him when he was 12. Pickens answered. "Leg never healed right." Clara felt Eli shrink beside her. She squeezed his hand. "Stand tall," she whispered. "Don't let them see you scared." "I ain't scared," Eli whispered back, but his voice cracked. "The debt's $300. Pickens continued. "Terms are standard. Whoever buys the contract gets their labor for 3 years or until the debt's paid off, whichever comes first. Now who wants to start the bidding?" Silence. Clara's heart pounded. She'd prepared herself for the humiliation of being sold. She hadn't prepared for the possibility that no one would want them at all. "Come on now," Pickens said, growing irritated. "The girl alone is worth 200 easy. She can cook, clean, keep books. What about the boy?" A rancher in a dusty hat called out. "You expecting us to feed a cripple who can't work?" "He can work," Clara said loudly. "He mends harnesses, fixes tools, tends chickens. He's good with numbers, too." Pickens shoved her. "Shut your mouth, girl. You speak when spoken to." $50 for the girl," the rancher offered. "You can keep the boy." Clara's blood ran cold. "No, we stay together." "That ain't your decision to make," Pickens said. "I ain't leaving my sister." Eli said, his voice stronger now. "You can't make me." Pickens raised his hand like he was going to strike the boy. Clara stepped in front of her brother, shielding him with her body. "You hit him, and I swear to God, I'll make you regret it." The auctioneer's face reddened with anger. "You're in no position to threaten anyone, missy. Your property now, same as a horse or a plow." $60 for the girl," another voice called. "I'll take her without the cripple." 70, countered the first rancher. Clara felt panic rising in her chest. They were going to separate them. After everything she'd promised their dying father, after everything she'd sacrificed to keep them together, they were going to tear Eli away from her. "Please," she said, turning to face the crowd. "Please, he's my brother. He's all I have left. Don't do this." A woman in the crowd turned away. A few men laughed uncomfortably. $80, the rancher bid again. Final offer for the girl alone. You can't, Clara started. Sold to. I'll take them both. The voice came from the back of the crowd, deep, steady, cutting through the chaos like a blade. The crowd parted and Clara saw him for the first time. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black duster despite the summer heat. His hat was pulled low, shadowing his face, but she could see the hard line of his jaw, the way he moved through the crowd like a man accustomed to being given room. What's that? Pickens asked, squinting against the sun. The stranger reached the front of the crowd and stopped. He removed his hat, revealing dark hair shot through with early gray and eyes the color of winter sky. I said I'll take them both, he repeated. The girl and the boy. What's the total debt? $300, Pickens said, eyeing the newcomer. You got that kind of money, mister? The stranger reached into his coat and pulled out a leather wallet. He counted out bills slowly, deliberately, while the entire crowd watched in silence. $300, he said, placing the money in Pickens's hand. We done here. Pickens counted the bills twice, then nodded slowly. We're done. They're yours, mister. Cole, Wyatt Cole. A ripple went through the crowd. Clara heard whispers. That's the Cole who owns Silver Creek Ranch. Used to be a ranger, I heard. His wife and boy got killed years back. Wyatt Cole didn't acknowledge any of it. He turned to face Clara and Eli, his expression unreadable. You two got any belongings? Clara found her voice. Just one bag. The sheriff's holding it. Go get it. I'll wait. She didn't move. Why? Cole's eyebrows rose slightly. Pardon? Why did you buy us, both of us? Nobody else wanted. She stopped, glancing at Eli. Nobody else wanted the cripple, Cole finished. That what you were gonna say? Clara's cheeks burned. I didn't mean... I know what you meant. Cole looked at Eli. Really looked at him, not with pity or disgust, but with something else. Assessment, maybe. Recognition. You the boy's sister? Yes, sir. I raised him since our mama died when he was 6. And you'd die before you let someone separate you from him. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. Cole nodded once. Then we understand each other. Go get your bag. My wagon's around the corner. Clara hesitated, still suspicious. What do you want from us, Mr. Cole? I got a ranch that needs running, and a housekeeper who's been complaining about doing everything herself for 10 years. You can cook. Yes. Keep books. Yes. He looked at Eli again. You any good with animals? Boy horses, cattle? Eli straightened up, trying to look taller. I can gentle a horse better than anyone. Can't ride much no more, but I can train 'em, and I fix things. Anything mechanical, I can fix it. Good. Cole put his hat back on. Now go get your bag. Sun's going down, and we got 20 miles to cover. Clara took Eli's arm and helped him down from the platform. Her legs felt weak, her mind spinning. 30 minutes ago, she'd been certain they were going to be separated, sold to different men, lost to each other forever. Now they were following a stranger to his wagon, their future completely unknown. Clara, Eli whispered as they walked. You think he's telling the truth about just needing workers? I don't know. What if he ain't? Clara thought about the men who had bid on her alone, the looks in their eyes, the things they hadn't bothered to hide. Then we run, she said quietly. First chance we get, we run. The wagon was waiting where Cole had set a sturdy buckboard with 2 horses hitched to the front. A black man sat in the driver's seat, his hat pushed back on his head, watching them approach. This them? He asked Cole. This is them. Sam, meet Miss Clara Thornton and her brother Elijah. They'll be coming back to Silver Creek with us. Sam's eyes swept over them, lingering on Eli's twisted leg. Both of them. Both of them. Something passed between the two men, a conversation Clara couldn't read. "All right then," Sam said. "Climb on up. Got water and jerky if you're hungry." Clara helped Eli into the back of the wagon, then climbed up after him. The wagon bed was clean lined with blankets and hay. Not comfortable, but better than the jail cell where they'd spent the last 3 nights. Cole mounted a big chestnut gelding and rode alongside as Sam clicked the horses into motion. As they rolled out of Cedar Hollow, Clara looked back at the town that had been her home for the past 2 years. The school where her father had taught. The boarding house where they'd lived. The church where she'd prayed for a miracle. She hadn't gotten a miracle. She'd gotten Wyatt Cole. She wasn't sure yet which one was better. They traveled for nearly 3 hours before the sun began to set. Eli had fallen asleep against Clara's shoulder, exhausted from the day's ordeal. Clara stayed awake watching Cole as he rode, trying to figure out what kind of man had just bought their lives. He didn't look like a rancher. He looked like something harder. The way he held himself, the way his eyes constantly scanned the horizon, the gun belt slung low on his hip. She'd heard the whispers in the crowd. Texas Ranger. Wife and son killed. What kind of man bought a crippled boy and his sister for $300 he'd never get back? "You can stop staring," Cole said without turning around. "I can feel it." Clara startled. "I wasn't." "You were." He finally looked at her. "You got questions, ask them. I ain't gonna bite." She swallowed her pride. "Why did you really buy us?" "Told you. Need help at the ranch." "You paid $300 for a woman and a crippled boy. You could have hired 10 workers for that much." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe I don't need 10 workers." "That ain't an answer. Maybe it's the only one you're gonna get tonight." Clara fell silent, frustrated. Eli stirred against her shoulder, but didn't wake. Sam glanced back at her. "Best let it rest, miss. Wyatt ain't much for explaining himself. But I've worked for him 15 years. He's the fairest man I ever known." "Fair don't mean safe," Clara said. Sam's expression shifted, something like understanding in his eyes. "No, ma'am, it don't. But safe's harder to find than you might think. Wyatt Cole's the closest thing to it I've seen in this territory." Clara didn't respond. She wrapped her arm tighter around Eli and watched the stars come out above the endless prairie. Silver Creek Ranch emerged from the darkness like a promise. The main house was 2 stories tall, painted white with a wide porch wrapped around the front. Lanterns glowed in the windows, and smoke rose from the chimney despite the summer warmth. Behind it, Clara could make out the shapes of barns, corrals, and what looked like a bunkhouse. "This is it," Cole said, dismounting. "Sam, wake the boy gently. Miss Thornton, come with me." Clara climbed down from the wagon, her legs stiff from the long ride. She wanted to stay with Eli, but something in Cole's tone told her this wasn't a request. She followed him up the porch steps and through the front door. The inside of the house was neat and comfortable. Not fancy, but well kept. A fire burned low in the hearth, and the smell of coffee lingered in the air. "Birdie," Cole called out. "Got company?" Footsteps came from the kitchen, quick and light despite their owner's age. A small woman with steel-gray hair and sharp brown eyes appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. "Lord have mercy, Wyatt Cole. It's nearly midnight. What kind of company you bringing home at this?" She stopped when she saw Clara. "Oh my." "Birdie, this is Miss Clara Thornton. She and her brother will be staying with us. She's gonna help you with the house. Her brother's good with animals and fixing things." Birdie's eyes swept over Clara, taking in her worn dress, her tangled hair, the fear she couldn't quite hide. "Where'd you find her?" Birdie asked Cole. "Dead auction in Cedar Hollow." Birdie's expression changed instantly. She crossed the room and took Clara's hands in hers, her grip surprisingly strong. "You poor child," she said softly. "You're safe now. You hear me. You're safe." Clara felt something crack inside her. The tears she'd been holding back all day suddenly threatened to spill over. "My brother," she managed. Eli. He's in the wagon. His leg. Sam's bringing him in, Cole said. Bertie set them up in the 2 rooms at the end of the hall. They'll need food, hot water, clean clothes. Already on it. Bertie squeezed Clara's hands. Come with me, honey. Let's get you settled. Clara let herself be led toward the kitchen, too exhausted to resist. At the doorway, she stopped and looked back at Cole. Mr. Cole. He'd been removing his gun belt, hanging it on a hook by the door. Yeah, thank you, for not separating us. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or memory. Get some rest, Miss Thornton. We'll talk terms in the morning. The bedroom was small but clean. A real bed with a real mattress. White sheets that smelled like lavender, and a window that looked out over the dark prairie. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, unable to move. Bertie had brought her hot water and a washcloth, a nightgown that was too big, but blessedly soft, and a plate of bread and cheese that Clara had devoured without tasting. Now she was alone, and the silence was deafening. A soft knock came at the door. Clara! She jumped up and opened it. Eli stood in the hallway leaning on the cane Sam had found for him somewhere, wearing clothes that hung loose on his thin frame. They gave me the room next door, he said. It's got a real bed. I ain't slept in a real bed since... He stopped. Since Pa died. Clara pulled him into the room and hugged him tight. I know, me neither. You think this is real? Eli asked, his voice muffled against her shoulder. You think they're really gonna let us stay together? I don't know, Clara admitted. But we're here tonight. We're together. That's more than we had this morning. Eli pulled back and looked at her. That man, Mr. Cole, he looked at my leg and he didn't look at me like I was broken. I noticed. Why do you think that is? Clara thought about the whispers in the crowd. Wife and son killed. The pain she'd glimpsed in Cole's eyes when she'd thanked him. I think maybe he knows what broken feels like. Eli was quiet for a moment. Then maybe he'll understand us. Maybe. Clara smoothed her brother's hair back from his forehead. Go to bed, Eli. We got a lot of work ahead of us, I reckon. Eli smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him in weeks. You're starting to sound like a Texan. God forbid. He laughed softly and limped back toward his room. At the door, he paused. Clara. Yeah. Whatever happens, I'm glad we're together. Me too, little brother. Me too. After he left, Clara returned to the window. The moon had risen, casting silver light over the land that now held their fate. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know if Wyatt Cole was the savior he appeared to be, or something far more dangerous. But for the first time in months, she allowed herself to feel something other than fear. Hope. Just a flicker. Just enough to keep breathing. In the room next door, she heard Eli's cane thump once against the floor as he climbed into bed. Then silence. Clara touched the cool glass of the window and made herself a promise. Whatever it takes, whatever I have to do, I will keep him safe, even if it meant trusting a stranger, even if it meant giving up what little freedom she had left. Eli was all she had. And no one, not Cornelius Blackwood, not the town of Cedar Hollow, not even Wyatt Cole himself would ever take him from her. She would make sure of it. Morning came too quickly. Clara woke to the sound of roosters and the smell of coffee drifting up through the floorboards. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The auction, the stranger in black, the long ride through the darkness. She dressed quickly in her worn dress and made her way downstairs. Bertie was already in the kitchen, moving between the stove and the table with practiced efficiency. She looked up when Clara appeared in the doorway. Good morning, child. Sleep well. Better than I have in weeks, ma'am. None of that ma'am business. Call me Bertie. Everyone does. She gestured to the table. Sit, eat. We got a lot to discuss. Clara sat, but her eyes kept moving to the window, searching for Eli. Your brother's in the barn with Sam, Bertie said, reading her thoughts. That boy was up before dawn asking about the horses. Sam took a shine to him right away. Eli loves horses, always has even after the accident. Bertie set a plate in front of her. Eggs, bacon, biscuits, more food than Clara had seen in days. Eat, Bertie ordered. You're too thin. Both of you are. Clara picked up her fork, then set it down. Mrs. Bertie, I need to ask you something. Just Bertie. Bertie. Clara met the older woman's eyes. What kind of man is Wyatt Cole? Really? Bertie pulled out a chair and sat across from her. What kind of man do you think buys a crippled boy and his sister at a debt auction? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Bertie was quiet for a moment. Wyatt Cole is the kind of man who carries more guilt than any one soul should bear. His wife Margaret and their boy little Daniel, they were killed 7 years ago. Raiders hit the ranch while Wyatt was 50 miles away chasing outlaws for the Rangers. Clara's chest tightened. He wasn't here when it happened. No, and he ain't never forgiven himself for it. Bertie's voice softened. After that, he quit the Rangers, threw himself into this ranch, built it up from nothing. But he closed himself off from everyone, wouldn't let nobody get close. Then why did he buy us? Bertie leaned forward. Because when he saw you standing on that platform holding on to your brother like your life depended on it, he saw himself. He saw what he couldn't save. And I reckon he decided he wasn't gonna let it happen again. Clara felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back. So he bought us out of guilt. He bought you because he's a good man who's been hiding from his own goodness for too long. Bertie reached across the table and squeezed Clara's hand. Give him a chance, child. Give this place a chance. You might find something here you didn't expect. The back door banged open and Eli came in, his face flushed with excitement. Clara! They got the most beautiful mare in the barn. Her name's Starlight, and she's pregnant, and Sam says I can help with the foaling when the time comes. Clara couldn't help but smile. She hadn't seen Eli this animated in months. That's wonderful, Eli. And there's a workshop behind the main barn. It's got tools and everything. Sam says nobody's used it proper in years, but he thinks I could fix it up, make it useful again. Slow down, boy. Bertie laughed. Let your sister finish her breakfast before you go making plans for the whole ranch. Eli's grin faded slightly as he looked at Clara. It's good here, Clara. I can feel it. Can't you? Before she could answer, heavy footsteps sounded on the porch. The front door opened, and Wyatt Cole stepped inside. He looked different in the daylight. Less intimidating somehow. More tired. He removed his hat and nodded to Bertie. Miss Thornton, I see you've met our resident drill sergeant. I heard that, Bertie said without turning around. You were meant to. Wyatt looked at Clara. When you're finished eating, meet me in the study. We need to discuss terms. He disappeared down the hallway before Clara could respond. Don't let him scare you, Bertie said. His bark's worse than his bite. Clara pushed back from the table. No time like the present. She found the study at the end of the hallway. The door was open. Wyatt stood behind a large wooden desk, papers spread before him. Close the door, he said. She did, then stood with her back straight, waiting. Sit down, Miss Thornton. This ain't an interrogation. She sat in the chair across from his desk, but remained rigid. Wyatt sighed and set down his pen. You don't trust me. I understand that. After what you've been through, I'd be worried if you did. You bought our contracts, Mr. Cole. You own 3 years of our lives. That's not exactly a foundation for trust. Fair enough. He opened a drawer and pulled out 2 pieces of paper. These are your contracts, yours and your brother's. The terms are simple. You work for me, you get room and board, and you each receive a small wage that I'll record against the debt. Standard arrangement. And what kind of work exactly? For you, helping Bertie run the household. Books, correspondence, cooking, cleaning. Whatever needs doing. He paused. For your brother, working with Sam in the stables. Learning the ranch. using those mechanical skills you mentioned. Clara waited. That's it. That's it. No. Other expectations. Wyatt's eyes hardened. I'm going to say this once, Miss Thornton, so listen carefully. You and your brother are workers on this ranch. Nothing more, nothing less. You'll be treated with respect, paid fairly, and protected under my roof. Anyone who suggests otherwise, anyone who tries to take advantage of your situation, they answer to me. He leaned forward. Is that clear enough for you? Clara felt something loosen in her chest. Yes, sir. It's clear. Good. He slid the contracts across the desk. Read them. Take your time. Ask questions. When you're satisfied, sign them. She picked up the papers, scanning the neat handwriting. The terms were exactly as he'd described. Fair. Almost generous. Why? She asked again. Why are you doing this? Wyatt stood and moved to the window. You know I lost my family. Bertie told me. I'm sorry. 7 years ago, I was chasing a gang of outlaws through the hill country. I was gone for 3 weeks. When I came back... He stopped. His hands clenched at his sides. When I came back, they were dead. Margaret and Daniel. My wife and my son. Killed by raiders who wanted our horses and didn't care who got in the way. Mr. Cole, I should have been here. I should have protected them. Instead, I was playing hero 50 miles away. He turned to face her. I can't bring them back. I can't undo what happened. But when I saw you and your brother on that platform, when I heard those men talking about separating you, about what they'd do with you. He stopped, his jaw tight. I decided I wasn't going to let another family be destroyed. Not if I could stop it. Clara stood slowly. We're not your family, Mr. Cole. No, you're not. His eyes met hers. But maybe that's exactly why I can help you. No strings, no expectations. Just a chance to start over. She looked at the contracts in her hand. 3 years. It was a long time, but it was also a promise. A roof over their heads. Safety for Eli. Do you have a pen? He handed her one without a word. She signed both contracts, her name steady on the paper. Welcome to Silver Creek Ranch, Miss Thornton. Clara, she said. If we're going to be living under the same roof, you might as well call me Clara. Something flickered in his eyes, almost a smile. Clara, then. You can call me Wyatt. She nodded once and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Wyatt? Yeah. Thank you for giving us a chance. He didn't respond. But when she glanced back, she saw him looking at the contracts like they were something precious. The first week passed in a blur of work and adjustment. Clara threw herself into learning the household routine. Bertie was a patient teacher, showing her where everything was kept, how Wyatt liked his coffee, which ranch hands were trustworthy, and which ones required watching. That one there, Jesse Pike, he's got wandering hands and a smart mouth, Bertie warned as they hung laundry one morning. You see him coming, you find something else to do. I can handle myself. I don't doubt it. But there's no sense inviting trouble. Eli, meanwhile, had found his place in the stables. Sam had taken the boy under his wing, teaching him about the horses, showing him how the ranch operated. Every evening, Eli came to dinner with stories about the animals he'd tended, the tools. He'd repaired the things he'd learned. Sam says I got a gift, Eli told Clara one night. Says I understand horses better than most men with 2 good legs. That's because you listen to them, Clara said. Most people don't bother. Sam listens. And Wyatt, too. This morning, Wyatt came by to check on the pregnant mare, and he asked my opinion. My opinion, Clara. Like it mattered. It does matter. Eli grinned. I know. That's what he said, too. By the end of the second week, Clara had started to relax. The rhythm of the ranch was steady and predictable. Wake at dawn, help Bertie with breakfast, manage the household accounts in the morning, assist with lunch and dinner, collapse into bed at night. It was hard work, but it was honest work, and for the first time in months, she felt useful. Then Cornelius Blackwood came to visit. It was a Thursday afternoon. Clara was in the study organizing Wyatt's correspondence when she heard horses approaching. She moved to the window and felt her blood run cold. A fancy carriage had pulled into the yard, followed by two men on horseback. And stepping out of the carriage was the man who had destroyed her family. Cornelius Blackwood looked exactly as she remembered. Expensive suit, silver hair, cold eyes that missed nothing. He surveyed the ranch like he already owned it. Clara's hands began to shake. "Clara?" Bertie appeared in the doorway. "What's wrong? You've gone white as a sheet." "That man, the one in the suit. Who is he?" Bertie's expression darkened. "Cornelius Blackwood, banker from Cedar Hollow. He's been sniffing around Silver Creek for years." "Why?" "There's talk of a railroad coming through this territory. Whoever owns the land it crosses stands to make a fortune. Blackwood's been buying up property all over the county." Clara felt sick. "He's the one who held my father's debt. He's the reason we were sold." Bertie's eyes widened. "Lord have mercy." The front door opened. Wyatt's voice carried through the house. "Blackwood, what brings you all the way out here?" "Just a friendly visit, Cole. Thought I'd check in on my neighbors." Clara moved silently into the hallway, staying out of sight, but close enough to hear. "We ain't neighbors," Wyatt said flatly. "Your nearest property is 15 miles from here." "For now." Blackwood's voice was smooth as oil. "But you know how things change. Land gets bought, sold, foreclosed. A man never knows who might end up next door. If you've got business to discuss, discuss it. Otherwise, I got work to do." "Always so direct, Cole. I admire that about you." A pause. "I've heard you've made some new acquisitions recently. A pair of young people from the Cedar Hollow auction." Clara's heart stopped. "What about them?" "The Thornton children. Their father owed me quite a bit of money before he died. Such a tragic situation." "The debt was paid," Wyatt said coldly. "I paid it myself." "Indeed you did. $300 for a woman and a crippled boy. Quite generous of you." Another pause. "I wonder, though, if you know everything there is to know about young Miss Thornton." "What are you implying?" "Nothing at all. Just, there are rumors. About the circumstances of her father's death. About certain irregularities in his accounts before he passed. Some folks wonder if he really died of consumption or if perhaps, get off my property." The words were quiet but deadly. "Now, Cole, there's no need for hostility. I said get off. You come here spreading poison about people under my protection, you're not welcome. Not now, not ever." Clara heard footsteps, the creak of the front door being opened. "Think about what I said, Cole. Silver Creek is a fine piece of land. I'd hate to see anything happen to it." "Is that a threat?" "Just an observation." Blackwood's voice moved toward the door. "Good day, Cole. We'll talk again soon." Clara waited until she heard the carriage wheels crunching on gravel before she stepped into the hallway. Wyatt was standing at the window watching Blackwood leave. His hands were clenched into fists. "You heard all that," he said without turning around. "Yes." "What he said about your father? About irregularities? Is there truth to it?" Clara's throat tightened. "My father made bad investments. He trusted the wrong people. But he wasn't a thief, if that's what you're asking." Wyatt turned to face her. "And his death? Consumption. He'd been sick for months. We couldn't afford a doctor." Her voice cracked. "I watched him die, Wyatt. I held his hand while he took his last breath. If Blackwood is suggesting anything else, he's lying." Wyatt studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I believe you." "Why? You barely know me." "Because I've learned to read people, and because Cornelius Blackwood is a snake who'd say anything to get what he wants." "What does he want with this ranch?" "Same thing he wants with everything. Power, control, money." Wyatt moved toward the study. "He's been trying to buy Silver Creek for 3 years. I've told him no every time. He doesn't take rejection well." "He's dangerous." Wyatt stopped. "I know. He'll try to destroy you. To destroy all of us. He can try. Wyatt looked at her over his shoulder. But I've faced worse than Cornelius Blackwood. And I'm still standing. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Blackwood's words echoing in her mind. Rumors about her father. Irregularities in his accounts. She knew what he was doing. He was planting seeds of doubt, trying to turn Wyatt against her. But why? What did he gain by poisoning her reputation? A soft knock came at her door. "Clara." Eli's voice. "You awake?" She got up and opened the door. Eli stood in the hallway, his face pale. "I heard about Blackwood," he said. "Sam told me he came by." "Come in." Eli limped to the chair by the window and sat down heavily. "Is he going to cause trouble for us?" "I don't know. Maybe." "What did he say?" Clara hesitated. She didn't want to burden her brother with more worry, but Eli deserved the truth. "He's spreading rumors about Pa, about how he died, trying to make Wyatt suspicious of us." Eli's face flushed with anger. "That's a lie. Pa was a good man." "I know, and Wyatt knows too." She sat on the edge of the bed facing her brother. "But Blackwood isn't going to stop. He wants this ranch and we're just pieces on his board." "Then what do we do?" Clara thought about everything she'd learned in the past 2 weeks. About Wyatt's loss, his guilt, his determination to protect what was his. About Bertie's loyalty and Sam's quiet strength. About the way this ranch had started to feel like home. "We stay," she said. "We work. We prove ourselves. And when Blackwood makes his move, we make sure we're ready." Eli nodded slowly. "All right, I can do that." "I know you can." She reached out and squeezed his hand. "Now go back to bed. You've got horses to tend in the morning." After he left, Clara returned to the window. The moon hung low over the prairie, casting long shadows across the land. Blackwood was coming. She could feel it in her bones. He wasn't the kind of man who gave up easily. He would push and probe and manipulate until he found a weakness to exploit. But Clara had spent her whole life protecting the people she loved. Her mother, her father, her brother. She'd failed before. She wouldn't fail again. Whatever Blackwood was planning, she would be ready. 3 days later, the first blow came. Clara was in the kitchen with Bertie when Sam burst through the back door, his face grim. "You need to come outside," he said. "Both of you." They followed him to the barn where Wyatt stood staring at the ground. At his feet lay 6 dead chickens, their throats cut clean. "What happened?" Clara gasped. "Someone got into the coop last night," Wyatt said quietly. "Killed the birds and left them here for us to find." "Who would do such a thing?" Bertie demanded. Wyatt picked up a piece of paper that had been pinned to the barn door. He read it, his expression hardening, then handed it to Clara. "Sell the ranch or lose more than chickens." Clara's hands trembled as she held the note. "Blackwood." "Can't prove it," Sam said. "Tracks were brushed away. No witnesses." "We all know it was him," Bertie snapped. "That snake's been circling this place for years." Wyatt took the note back and crumpled it in his fist. "Double the watch tonight. No one goes anywhere alone. And Sam?" "Yeah, boss. Check on the horses. If anything's happened to them, already did. They're fine. Whatever did this was sending a message, not making a move." "Yet," Wyatt said grimly. "Not making a move yet." Clara looked at the dead chickens, at the blood staining the ground, and felt something cold settle in her stomach. This was just the beginning. Blackwood was testing them, probing for weaknesses. And she had a terrible feeling that the next attack would be far worse. "I need to tell you something," she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "The night before Pa died, he gave me a box. Papers, documents. He made me promise to hide them to keep them safe. He said they were important, that one day I'd need them." Wyatt's eyes sharpened. "What kind of papers?" "I don't know. I never opened the box. When Blackwood seized the house, I grabbed it and hid it with our things. It's still in my bag upstairs." Get it, Wyatt said. Now. Clara ran to the house and up the stairs. She dug through her meager possessions until she found the small wooden box her father had pressed into her hands. Protect this, Clara. Whatever happens, protect this. She carried it downstairs and handed it to Wyatt. He opened it carefully. Inside were several folded papers yellowed with age. He spread them on the kitchen table, his brow furrowing as he read. These are land deeds, he said slowly, and loan documents. Records of transactions between your father and... He stopped. And who? Clara asked. Wyatt looked up at her, his expression dangerous. Cornelius Blackwood. Your father wasn't just a debtor, Clara. He was a witness. A witness to what? Fraud. Blackwood's been forging land deeds taking property that doesn't belong to him. Wyatt held up one of the papers. This document proves it. Your father must have discovered what Blackwood was doing and kept evidence. Clara's mind raced. That's why Blackwood wanted to destroy us. That's why he pushed the debt so hard, why he arranged the auction so quickly. He was afraid of what Pa knew. And what you might know. Wyatt's jaw tightened. These papers could destroy Blackwood, send him to prison, ruin everything he's built. What do we do with them? Wyatt carefully gathered the documents and placed them back in the box. We keep them safe, and when the time is right, we use them. He'll come for us, Clara said. When he realizes we have this, let him come. Wyatt's eyes were cold as steel. I've been waiting a long time for a chance to take down Cornelius Blackwood. Now we've got it. He took the box and locked it in the safe in his study. When he returned, his expression had changed. Harder, more determined. From now on, we're at war, he said. No more waiting, no more hoping he'll leave us alone. Blackwood made the first move. It's time we made ours. Clara looked at Wyatt, at Sam and Bertie, at this unlikely family that had formed around her in just 2 weeks. What do you need me to do? She asked. Wyatt met her eyes. Trust me. Can you do that? She thought about everything he'd done for them. The auction, the contracts, the protection, the belief in her when he had no reason to believe. Yes, she said. I can. Good. He turned to Sam. Gather the hands. We've got a ranch to defend. As Sam left to spread the word, Clara felt something shift inside her. Fear was still there, coiled in her belly like a snake. But alongside it was something new, something stronger. Purpose. She'd spent months running, hiding, trying to survive. Now she had something worth fighting for. A home, a family, a future. And she would defend it with everything she had. Even if it meant going to war with the most powerful man in the county. Even if it meant risking everything she'd just begun to hope for. Clara May Thornton was done running. The war came faster than anyone expected. 2 nights after they found the dead chickens. Clara woke to the sound of screaming. She threw off her blankets and ran to the window just as flames erupted from the hay barn. Fire! Sam's voice cut through the night. Everyone up! Fire in the barn! Clara grabbed her shawl and raced downstairs. Bertie was already in the kitchen filling buckets. Outside, ranch hands ran toward the blaze, their faces lit orange by the flames. Eli! Clara screamed. Where's Eli? He's safe, Bertie said. He's with Sam at the well. Clara ran outside and found her brother pumping water as fast as he could, his bad leg braced against the stone base. His face was streaked with sweat and soot. Clara, help me! She grabbed a bucket and joined the line of men passing water toward the fire. Her arms burned her lungs, filled with smoke, but she kept moving. Wyatt was at the front of the line, closest to the flames. He directed the men with sharp commands, his voice never wavering, even as sparks rained down around him. They fought for what felt like hours. By the time the fire was out, the hay barn was nothing but smoking ruins. A month's worth of feed gone. Clara collapsed against the well, her body trembling with exhaustion. Wyatt walked toward her, his face black with soot. his eyes hard as flint. "Anyone hurt?" she asked. "Jesse Pike's got burns on his hands, nothing serious." He knelt beside her. "You all right?" "I'm fine, just tired." "This wasn't an accident," Sam said, joining them. "I found kerosene cans behind the barn. Someone set this fire on purpose." "Blackwood," Clara whispered. Wyatt stood. "Gather the men. We're going to Cedar Hollow." "Tonight?" Sam asked. "Tonight." Clara grabbed his arm. "Wyatt, wait. If you go there now, angry with a dozen armed men, you'll be playing right into his hands. He wants you to make a mistake. He wants a reason to call the sheriff on you." Wyatt's jaw clenched. "So what do you suggest? Sit here while he burns us out piece by piece." "I suggest we use what we have." Clara stood, ignoring the ache in her muscles. "The documents. My father's evidence. If we can get to the territorial judge before Blackwood knows what we're planning." "The judge is in Austin. That's a 3-day ride." "Then we better start now." Wyatt stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, the fury in his eyes began to cool. "Sam, tell the men to stand down. Post double guards around the property." He looked at Clara. "You and I are going to Austin." "What about Eli?" "He stays here. Bertie and Sam will look after him." Clara hesitated. She'd never been separated from her brother since they arrived at Silver Creek. The thought of leaving him behind made her stomach churn. "I don't like it," she said. "Neither do I. But this is the only way." Wyatt's voice softened. "I won't let anything happen to him, Clara. I give you my word." She looked into his eyes and saw something there she hadn't expected. Not just determination, but something deeper, something personal. "All right," she said. "Let's go." They left before dawn, taking 2 fast horses and enough supplies for the journey. Clara had never ridden so hard in her life. Every muscle screamed in protest, but she pushed through the pain, keeping pace with Wyatt as they ate up the miles. They stopped only when the horses needed rest. During those brief pauses, Wyatt told her about the ranch, about the life he'd built from nothing, about the dreams he'd had for his family before they were taken from him. "Margaret wanted children," he said, staring into their small campfire. "Lots of them. She used to talk about filling up all those empty bedrooms in the house." "And Daniel?" A shadow crossed Wyatt's face. "He was 4 years old. Just learning to ride. He wanted to be a cowboy like his daddy." His voice cracked. "I never got to see him grow up." Clara reached out and touched his hand. "I'm sorry." He didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers curled around hers, warm and strong. "When I saw you on that platform," he said quietly, "holding on to your brother, refusing to let them separate you, I saw Margaret. She would have done the same thing. Fought with everything she had to protect her family." "Is that why you bought us? Because we reminded you of her?" Wyatt shook his head slowly. "At first, maybe. But that's not why I want you to stay." Clara's heart began to pound. "What do you mean?" He turned to face her, firelight dancing in his eyes. "These past weeks, having you and Eli at the ranch, it's changed something in me. Made me remember what it feels like to have a purpose beyond just surviving." He squeezed her hand. "You've given me back something I thought I'd lost forever, Clara. Hope." She wanted to say something, wanted to tell him that she felt it too, this pull between them growing stronger every day, but the words stuck in her throat. "We should get some rest," she said instead. "Long day tomorrow." Wyatt nodded, but his hand lingered on hers a moment longer before letting go. That night, Clara lay awake, staring at the stars, her mind racing. She was falling for Wyatt Cole. She knew it with a certainty that terrified her, but how could she trust this feeling? She was bound to him by a contract. Her future depended on his goodwill. How could she know if what she felt was real, or just gratitude dressed up as something more? And what if she was wrong? What if she opened her heart and he broke it? She'd already lost so much. She didn't know if she could survive losing anything else. Sleep finally claimed her, but her dreams were troubled. They reached Austin on the third day exhausted and covered in trail dust. The territorial courthouse stood in the center of town, an imposing stone building that seemed to dwarf everything around it. "Judge Morrison sees petitions on Thursdays," Wyatt said. "We've got one day to prepare our case." They found lodging at a modest hotel and spent the evening organizing the documents Clara's father had left behind. Spread out on the bed, the evidence was damning. Forged deeds, fraudulent loans, records of payments that never existed. "This is enough to destroy him," Clara said. "Why didn't my father use it before he died? Maybe he was scared. Maybe he was waiting for the right moment." Wyatt picked up one of the papers. Or maybe Blackwood was blackmailing him somehow. Blackmailing him with what? Wyatt hesitated. "There's something here you should see." He handed her a letter written in her father's handwriting. Clara's hands trembled as she read it. "My dearest Clara," it began, "if you're reading this, I am gone, and the truth can no longer hurt me. I must confess something I should have told you long ago. The accident that crippled your brother was not an accident. I was being threatened by Cornelius Blackwood. He wanted me to forge documents for him, and when I refused, he arranged for Eli to be hurt. I have lived with this guilt every day since. I am sorry I was not strong enough to protect him. But I have kept the evidence of Blackwood's crimes, and I pray that one day you will use it to bring him to justice. Forgive me. Your loving father." The letter fell from Clara's hands. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." "Clara, Eli's accident wasn't an accident." Her voice rose cracking with anguish. "Blackwood did that to him, to punish my father." Wyatt reached for her. "I'm sorry. I didn't know how to... Don't touch me." She stumbled backward, her chest heaving. "All these years I thought it was my fault. I was supposed to be watching him that day. I blamed myself for not being there, for not protecting him. It wasn't your fault. I know that now." Tears streamed down her face. "But Eli doesn't. He's spent 4 years thinking he was just unlucky, just broken, when all along it was..." She choked on a sob. "He was targeted. He was hurt because of something I didn't even know about." Wyatt stepped closer slowly, like he was approaching a frightened animal. "Clara, listen to me. This changes things. It means we have even more reason to bring Blackwood down. He didn't just cheat people out of their money. He hurt a child. He destroyed your family." Clara wiped her eyes angrily. "When I get back to Silver Creek, I'm going to tell Eli the truth." "Maybe that's not a good idea. He deserves to know." "Yes, he does. But think about what it'll do to him. He's finally starting to heal, starting to believe he has a future." Wyatt's voice was gentle. "If you tell him now while Blackwood is still free, all that anger's got nowhere to go. It'll eat him alive." Clara wanted to argue, wanted to scream that secrets were poison, that her father's silence had led to nothing but pain. But somewhere beneath the rage, she knew Wyatt was right. "After," she said finally, "after we destroy Blackwood, I'll tell him everything." Fair enough. She looked at the scattered papers, at the letter that had just shattered everything she thought she knew about her family's past. "What time do we see the judge?" 9 o'clock. Clara straightened her spine and wiped the last of her tears away. "Then we better be ready." Judge Morrison was a small man with sharp eyes and a reputation for fairness that had reached every corner of the territory. He listened in silence as Wyatt laid out the evidence, his expression growing darker with every document Clara placed before him. "These are serious accusations, Mr. Cole," Morrison said when they finished. "You're claiming that Cornelius Blackwood has been systematically defrauding landowners throughout this county for years." "I'm not claiming it, Your Honor. The evidence proves it." Morrison picked up one of the forged deeds and examined it closely. "And where did you obtain these documents?" "From my father," Clara said. "Charles Thornton. He was a schoolteacher in Cedar Hollow before he died. Blackwood held his debt and arranged to have me and my brother sold at auction after his death. To silence you. I believe so, Your Honor. My father must have discovered Blackwood's fraud and kept evidence. Blackwood has been trying to destroy us ever since. Morrison leaned back in his chair. Do you have witnesses? Anyone who can corroborate these claims? Clara's heart sank. My father is dead, and anyone else who might know is probably too scared of Blackwood to come forward. Then we have a problem. Morrison set down the papers. These documents are compelling, but without witnesses they could be dismissed as forgeries themselves. Your word against Blackwood's. There must be something we can do, Wyatt said. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and moved to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. Cornelius Blackwood is a powerful man. He has friends in Austin, in the legislature, in the territorial government. Taking him down won't be easy. He turned to face them. But I didn't become a judge to protect powerful men from the consequences of their crimes. Hope flickered in Clara's chest. Does that mean you'll help us? I'll issue a warrant for Blackwood's arrest on suspicion of fraud. I'll also send a federal marshal to Cedar Hollow to investigate. Morrison returned to his desk and began writing. But I warn you, Blackwood will fight back. He'll use every weapon at his disposal. Are you prepared for that? Wyatt looked at Clara. She nodded. Yes, Your Honor, Wyatt said. Wyatt, we're prepared. They rode hard back to Silver Creek, the warrant tucked safely in Wyatt's saddlebag. Clara's mind raced with everything that had happened, everything she'd learned. Her father had tried to protect them. He'd failed, but he'd tried. And now she had the chance to finish what he started. We're gonna get him, she said as they crested the final hill before the ranch. After everything he's done, we're finally gonna... She stopped. Wyatt reined in his horse beside her, his face going pale. Below them, Silver Creek Ranch was in chaos. Men ran in every direction. Women screamed. And in the center of the yard, surrounded by armed men on horseback, stood Cornelius Blackwood. He was holding a piece of paper over his head, his voice carrying up the hill. By authority of the county sheriff, I am hereby seizing this property for non-payment of taxes. All occupants must vacate immediately. No, Clara breathed. No, Wyatt kicked his horse into a gallop, racing down the hill with Clara close behind. They burst into the yard, and Blackwood turned to face them. A cold smile spread across his face. Ah, Mr. Cole. So good of you to return. I was just explaining to your employees that they're trespassing on my property now. Your property. Wyatt dismounted his hand, moving to his gun belt. This ranch has been in my name for 15 years. Was in your name. Blackwood waved the paper. According to county records, you've been delinquent on your property taxes for 3 years. The land has been legally seized and transferred to me as the primary creditor. That's a lie. Is it? Blackwood's smile widened. I have documents proving every word, filed just yesterday with the county clerk. Clara felt sick. The documents. Blackwood's forgeries. He'd used his own tactics against them. Those records are fake, she said. Just like every other document you've ever touched. Blackwood turned his cold eyes on her. Miss Thornton, I heard you'd gone to Austin with Mr. Cole. What a touching journey that must have been. His voice dripped with insinuation. I wonder what the good people of Cedar Hollow would say if they knew what you two were doing alone on the trail for 3 nights. Nothing happened, Clara said through gritted teeth. Of course not. Blackwood chuckled. But gossip has a way of creating its own truth, doesn't it? Just like your father learned. Before Clara could respond, another voice cut through the chaos. Leave her alone. Eli emerged from the crowd, his cane striking the ground with each step. His face was red with fury. Eli, no, Clara cried. You think you can come here and take everything from us? Eli's voice shook with rage. You think you can destroy our family and just walk away? Blackwood looked at the boy with amused contempt. The cripple speaks. How touching. Something snapped in Eli. He lunged forward, swinging his cane at Blackwood's head. One of the armed men intercepted him, throwing him to the ground. Eli! Clara rushed to her brother's side. Wyatt's gun was out before anyone could react, the barrel pointed directly at Blackwood's chest. Tell your man to back away from the boy. Now! The yard went silent, everyone frozen waiting to see what would happen next. Blackwood raised one hand and the armed man stepped back from Eli. This doesn't have to end in violence, Cole. Simply sign over the deed to Silver Creek and we can all walk away peacefully. I'd rather die. That can be arranged. Blackwood's voice hardened. You have until sundown tomorrow to vacate this property. If you're still here after that, I'll have the sheriff remove you by force. He mounted his horse and gathered his men with a gesture. Enjoy your last night at Silver Creek, Mr. Cole. Make it count. They rode away in a cloud of dust, leaving devastation in their wake. Clara helped Eli to his feet, her heart breaking at the defeat in his eyes. We lost, he whispered. After everything we still lost. No. Wyatt's voice was hard as iron. We haven't lost yet. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out the warrant from Judge Morrison. Blackwood thinks he's won. He doesn't know what's coming. But he seized the ranch, Clara said. Even with the warrant gives us time, and time is all we need. Wyatt looked at the gathered ranch hands at Bertie standing in the doorway, at Eli leaning on his sister for support. Tomorrow a federal marshal rides into Cedar Hollow. Tomorrow, Cornelius Blackwood answers for his crimes. He held up the warrant for everyone to see. Tonight we hold the line. No matter what comes, we don't give up this ranch. Not until justice is done. Clara looked at the man she'd come to trust, to admire, to love. And she made her choice. Tell us what to do, she said. We're with you. All of us. Wyatt nodded once. His eyes met hers, and in them she saw everything he hadn't yet said. Then let's get ready for a fight. They worked through the night. Wyatt positioned men at every entrance to the ranch. Sam took charge of the main gate, armed with a rifle and orders to fire warning shots if Blackwood's men returned before dawn. The remaining hands dug in around the house, ready for whatever came next. Clara helped Bertie prepare supplies, bandages, water, food, everything they might need if this turned into a siege. You should get some rest, Bertie said, noting the dark circles under Clara's eyes. I can't sleep. Not now. Then at least sit down before you collapse. Clara ignored her, continuing to roll bandages with trembling fingers. Her mind kept replaying the moment Eli had been thrown to the ground. The look on Blackwood's face. The casual cruelty in his voice. He hurt my brother. Bertie looked up. What? 4 years ago, when Eli's leg was crushed, it wasn't an accident. Clara's hands stopped moving. Blackwood did it to punish my father for refusing to forge documents. Lord have mercy. I found out in Austin. My father left a letter explaining everything. Clara's voice cracked. Eli doesn't know. He thinks it was just bad luck. He blames himself for not being careful enough. Bertie set down her work and moved to Clara's side. That poor boy. I want to tell him the truth. He deserves to know. But Wyatt says I should wait until after Blackwood is brought to justice. Wyatt's right. Bertie put a hand on Clara's shoulder. Some truths need time to be heard proper. Right now, Eli needs to focus on surviving tomorrow. The rest can come later. Clara nodded, but the weight of the secret pressed down on her like a stone. The door opened, and Wyatt stepped inside. His face was drawn with exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp. Sun'll be up in 2 hours. The marshal should reach Cedar Hollow by noon. And Blackwood's deadline? Clara asked. Sundown. We got about 10 hours between the marshal's arrival and when Blackwood expects us to be gone. Wyatt sat down heavily at the kitchen table. If everything goes according to plan, Blackwood will be in chains before sunset. And if it doesn't go according to plan, Wyatt met her eyes. Then we fight. Clara reached across the table and took his hand. Whatever happens, I want you to know something. Clara, let me finish. She squeezed his fingers. When I came here, I was scared and angry and convinced that everyone in this world was out to hurt us. But you showed me something different. You showed me that good men still exist. That kindness isn't weakness. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You gave us a home, Wyatt. A real home. And whatever happens tomorrow, I'll never forget that. Wyatt's thumb traced circles on her palm. You know how I feel about you. I know. But I can't say it. Not yet. Not while you're still bound by that contract. Clara felt her heart clench. The contract doesn't matter to me. It matters to me. His eyes were fierce with something she couldn't name. When I tell you how I feel, I want it to be when you're free. When you can choose to stay or go without any strings attached. And if I choose to stay, a ghost of a smile crossed his lips, then I reckon I'll be the luckiest man in Texas. Before Clara could respond, the door burst open. Sam stood in the doorway, his rifle in hand. Riders coming. About a dozen of them. Wyatt was on his feet instantly. Blackwood. Can't tell yet. They're coming from the east. That's not the direction of Cedar Hollow. Clara stood, her heart pounding. Who else would be riding here at this hour? They rushed outside. The sky was beginning to lighten, painting the horizon in shades of gray and pink. In the distance, Clara could make out the shapes of horses and riders approaching fast. Everyone hold your fire, Wyatt ordered. Let's see who we're dealing with. The riders came closer. Clara squinted, trying to make out faces. Then she saw the badge on the lead rider's chest, glinting in the early light. It's the marshal, Sam shouted. The marshal's here early. Relief flooded through Clara so fast, her knees nearly buckled. He made it. The federal marshal pulled his horse to a stop in front of the house. He was a weathered man with gray temples and a face that had seen too many hard days. Wyatt Cole, he asked. That's me. I'm Marshal Thomas Barrett. Got a warrant from Judge Morrison for the arrest of Cornelius Blackwood. He looked around at the armed men positioned throughout the ranch. Looks like I arrived at an interesting time. Blackwood seized my property yesterday with forged documents. He's threatening to remove us by force at sundown. Barrett's expression hardened. Is that so? Well, let us see how he likes trying to remove a federal officer. He dismounted and handed his reins to one of his deputies. You got somewhere we can talk private. They gathered in Wyatt's study, Clara, Wyatt, Barrett, and Sam. The marshal spread the warrant on the desk and examined the evidence Clara and Wyatt had collected. This is solid, Barrett said. Damning even. Blackwood's been running this fraud for years by the look of it. He's also responsible for injuring my brother, Clara said. I have a letter from my father proving it. Barrett looked up sharply. That changes things. We're not just talking about fraud anymore. We're talking about assault, maybe attempted murder. So, what's the plan? Wyatt asked. We ride into Cedar Hollow, arrest Blackwood, seize his records. Barrett folded the warrant and tucked it into his coat. If everything you've shown me holds up, he'll be on a prison wagon to Austin before nightfall. What about the fake seizure order on my ranch? Invalid the moment I slap cuffs on him. Any documents he filed in the last week will be suspended pending investigation. Barrett stood. You want to come along? See justice done. Wyatt looked at Clara. You up for it? Clara thought about everything Blackwood had taken from her. Her father, her home, her brother's leg, her dignity on that auction platform. I wouldn't miss it. They rode into Cedar Hollow with the sun at their backs. The town was just waking up, shopkeepers opening their doors, children running to school. They stopped and stared as the federal marshal and his deputies rode past, followed by Wyatt, Clara, and a half-dozen Silver Creek ranch hands. Blackwood's office was in the bank. He owned a 2-story building in the center of town. Barrett dismounted and approached the front door, his hand resting on his gun. Cornelius Blackwood, he called out. This is Federal Marshal Thomas Barrett. I have a warrant for your arrest. Come out with your hands where I can see them. Silence. The door remained closed. Maybe he's not here, one of the deputies suggested. Oh, he's here. Wyatt nodded toward the second-floor window, where a curtain had just twitched. I saw him looking down at us. Barrett pounded on the door. Blackwood, you got 30 seconds to come out before we come in? Still nothing. All right then. Barrett stepped back and gestured to his deputies. Break it down. Two men rushed forward with a heavy log. One hit 2 hits and the door splintered open. They poured inside, guns drawn. Clara stayed close to Wyatt, her heart racing. She'd never been part of anything like this before. Upstairs? Someone shouted. They thundered up the staircase and burst into Blackwood's private office. He was standing behind his desk, his face pale, but his expression defiant. This is outrageous, Blackwood said. You can't just break into a man's place of business. I can when I've got a federal warrant. Barrett stepped forward. Cornelius Blackwood, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. This is nonsense. Blackwood's composure cracked. I'm a respected member of this community. I've done nothing wrong. Tell that to the judge. Barrett nodded to his deputies. Cuff him. As they approached, Blackwood's hand moved toward his desk drawer. Gun! Clara screamed. Everything happened at once. Blackwood pulled a pistol from the drawer. Wyatt shoved Clara behind him. Barrett drew his weapon. The shot cracked through the air, but it wasn't Blackwood who fired. The banker crumpled to the ground, his pistol clattering away unfired. Blood spread from a wound in his shoulder. Who shot him? Barrett demanded, looking around. I did. Sam stepped forward from the doorway, his rifle still smoking. Wasn't about to let him hurt anyone else. Barrett holstered his weapon and knelt beside Blackwood. He'll live. It's just the shoulder. He looked up at Sam. Good shot. Thank you, sir. Clara stared at the man who had destroyed her family, now writhing in pain on the floor. She'd imagined this moment so many times, dreamed of it, prayed for it, but she felt no satisfaction, only emptiness. Clara. Wyatt's voice was gentle. You all right? I thought I'd feel different when we finally caught him. How do you feel? She looked at Blackwood being dragged to his feet by the deputies, his fine suit stained with blood, his face twisted with fear and pain. Tired, she said. Just tired. Wyatt put his arm around her shoulders. It's over. That's what matters. But it wasn't over. Not yet. They found the evidence in Blackwood's safe. Dozens of forged documents, records of bribes paid to local officials, a ledger listing every property he'd stolen over the past decade. And something else. What's this? Barrett pulled out a bundle of letters tied with a black ribbon. Clara recognized the handwriting immediately. Those are my father's. Barrett handed them to her. Clara's hands trembled as she untied the ribbon and read the first letter. They were threats. Blackmail. Her father begging Blackwood to leave his family alone, promising to stay silent if Blackwood would just let them live in peace. He was trying to protect us, Clara whispered. Even at the end, he was trying to protect us. The last letter was dated just 2 days before her father died. It was addressed to Clara, but had never been sent. My darling girl, it read. By the time you read this, I will be gone. I have made terrible mistakes. I trusted the wrong man, and my weakness has brought suffering to our family. But you must know the truth. Your brother's accident was no accident. Blackwood arranged it to punish me for defying him. I have kept evidence of his crimes hidden in the box I gave you. Use it. Bring him to justice. And please forgive me for not being strong enough to do it myself. I love you and Eli more than life itself. Be brave, my daughter. Be brave and be free. Your father. Clara's tears fell on the paper, smudging the ink. He knew, she said. He knew Blackwood would kill him. And he still tried to save us. Wyatt held her as she cried, his arms strong and steady around her. Your father was a good man, he said quietly. He made mistakes, but he loved you. Never forget that. They rode back to Silver Creek as heroes. Word had spread through Cedar Hollow like wildfire. The federal marshal had arrested Cornelius Blackwood. The most powerful man in the county was going to prison, and the evidence that brought him down had come from Wyatt Cole's ranch. By the time they reached the property, a small crowd had gathered. Ranch hands, their families' neighbors from surrounding properties. They cheered as Wyatt and Clara rode through the gate. You did it! Birdie rushed forward, her face wet with tears. You actually did it! We all did it, Wyatt said, dismounting. Every last one of us. Eli pushed through the crowd, his cane thumping against the ground. Clara, is it true they arrested Blackwood? Clara slid off her horse and pulled her brother into a fierce embrace. It's true. He's going to prison, Eli. He's never going to hurt anyone again. Eli's body shook with sobs. I can't believe it. After everything. I know. Clara stroked his hair, her own tears falling. I know. That night, they gathered in the main house for the biggest celebration Silver Creek had ever seen. Food and drink flowed freely. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed through rooms that had been silent for too long. Clara stood on the porch watching the festivities through the window. Her heart was full, but a familiar weight still pressed on her chest. You're thinking about telling him? She turned to find Wyatt standing behind her. How did you know? Because I know you. He moved to stand beside her. And I know you've been carrying that secret like a stone around your neck. He deserves the truth. Yes, he does. Wyatt was quiet for a moment. But maybe tonight isn't the right time. Let him have this. Let him celebrate. Tomorrow, when things are calmer, you can tell him everything. Clara considered this. Inside, Eli was laughing at something Sam had said, his face bright with joy. All right, she said. Tomorrow. Wyatt took her hand. There's something else I need to talk to you about. What is it? He reached into his coat and pulled out 2 pieces of paper. Clara recognized them immediately. The contracts. Yes. Wyatt held them up. Yours and Eli's. What are you doing? Instead of answering, he tore the contracts in half, then quarters, then eighths. The pieces fluttered to the ground like snow. You're free, he said. Both of you. As of right now, you don't owe me anything. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Wyatt. Let me finish. He took both her hands in his. I've waited weeks to say this. Waited until you weren't bound by any obligation. Until you could choose freely without feeling like you owed me anything. Say what? His eyes met hers, blazing with emotion. I love you, Clara May Thornton. I've loved you since the moment you stood on that auction platform and told them they'd have to kill you before they separated you from your brother. I love your strength, your courage, your heart. And if you'll have me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you. Clara felt tears streaming down her face. You already have. Then stay. Not because of any contract. Not because you have nowhere else to go. Stay because you want to. Stay because you love me too. She reached up and touched his face, tracing the strong line of his jaw. I do love you, she whispered. God help me, I've been trying not to, but I do. Wyatt's smile lit up his entire face. Is that a yes? Yes. She laughed through her tears. Yes, it's a yes. He kissed her, then gentle at first, then deeper. Clara melted into him, feeling for the first time in years that she was exactly where she belonged. When they finally pulled apart, they found a crowd gathered in the doorway. Birdie, Sam, Eli, and half the ranch hands, all grinning like fools. About time, Birdie declared. I was starting to think I'd have to lock you two in a room together. Everyone laughed. Clara buried her face in Wyatt's chest, embarrassed but happy. "Well," Sam asked, "is there gonna be a wedding or not?" Wyatt looked down at Clara. "What do you say? Want to make an honest man out of me?" Clara thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The auction, the journey, the fire, the battle with Blackwood, all the pain and fear and uncertainty, and now this, love, family, home. "Yes," she said. "I reckon I do." The celebration that followed made the previous one look tame. Someone produced a fiddle, someone else found more whiskey, and as the music filled the night air, Clara danced in the arms of the man she loved, surrounded by the family they'd built together. Eli caught her eye from across the room. He was smiling, truly smiling for the first time in years. He raised his cup in a toast. Clara raised hers back. Tomorrow she would tell him the truth about his accident. Tomorrow they would face whatever came next together. But tonight she would simply be grateful. For second chances. For found family. For love that bloomed in the most unexpected places. For home. The morning after the celebration, Clara woke with a knot in her stomach. Today was the day. No more excuses. No more waiting. She found Eli in the barn, brushing down the pregnant mare he'd grown so attached to. He looked up when she entered, a smile breaking across his face. "Morning, Clara. You look like you barely slept. I need to talk to you." Something in her voice made him set down the brush. "What's wrong? Did something happen with Blackwood?" "No. He's still locked up. The marshal took him to Austin yesterday." Clara took a deep breath. "This is about something else. Something Pa told me before he died." Eli's expression shifted. Guarded now, wary. "What about Pa?" Clara pulled the letter from her pocket. The one their father had written. The one that would change everything. "I found this in Austin. Pa left it for me along with the evidence against Blackwood." She held it out to him. "You need to read it." Eli took the paper slowly. His eyes moved across the words, and Clara watched his face transform. Confusion first, then disbelief, then something darker. "This says my accident wasn't an accident." "I know. It says Blackwood arranged it, to punish Pa." Eli's voice rose. "It says I was crippled on purpose." "Eli, 4 years." He slammed his fist against the stall door. 4 years. I blamed myself for that fall. 4 years. I thought if I'd just been more careful, if I'd paid more attention. "I know. I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" Eli's eyes blazed with fury. "You knew about this. You knew, and you didn't tell me." "I only found out in Austin, a few days ago." "A few days." He laughed bitterly. "You've known for days that the man who destroyed my life was the same man who stole everything from us, and you didn't think I deserved to know. Wyatt said we should wait, until Blackwood was arrested, until you could process it without—" Wyatt said. Eli's voice cracked. "Since when does Wyatt Cole make decisions for our family?" Clara flinched. "That's not fair." "Fair." Eli threw the letter on the ground. "You want to talk about fair? I spent 4 years thinking I was just unlucky, just broken, just the crippled boy who couldn't do anything right. And the whole time it was Blackwood. The whole time there was someone to blame. That's why I'm telling you now, so you know the truth." "The truth." Eli grabbed his cane and pushed past her. "The truth is that everyone's been lying to me. Pa lied. You lied. Even Wyatt. Wyatt was trying to protect you. I don't need protection." Eli spun to face her, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I needed the truth, Clara. I needed someone to treat me like a man instead of a child who can't handle bad news." Clara felt her own tears falling. "You're right. I should have told you sooner. I was scared of how you'd react." "Well, now you know." He limped out of the barn, leaving Clara alone with the horses and her own crushing guilt. She found Wyatt in his study going through papers. He looked up when she entered and immediately stood. "What happened?" "I told Eli. About his accident. About Blackwood." Clara sank into a chair. "He's furious with me. With both of us." Wyatt moved to her side. "He needs time. What if he doesn't forgive me?" "He will. He's hurt and angry, but he loves you. That hasn't changed." Clara wiped her eyes. "I've never seen him like that. So full of rage. That rage has been building for 4 years. It just didn't have a target until now." Wyatt knelt beside her chair. "Give him space. Let him work through it. When he's ready, he'll come back. And if he doesn't, he will." Wyatt took her hand. "I promise." Eli didn't come back for dinner, or breakfast the next morning, or lunch. Clara grew increasingly worried. She asked Sam if he'd seen the boy. "He's been in the workshop," Sam said. "Working on something, won't say what." "Is he eating?" "Bertie's been bringing him food. He takes it at least." Clara started toward the workshop, but Sam caught her arm. "Give him time, Miss Clara. Some wounds take longer to heal than others." She waited. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. On the third day, Eli appeared at breakfast. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. His clothes rumpled, his hair uncombed. But there was something different about him, too. A calmness that hadn't been there before. "Morning," he said, sliding into his seat. Everyone fell silent. Clara held her breath. "I owe you an apology." Eli continued looking at his sister. "I said things I didn't mean. You were trying to protect me, same as you always have." "Eli, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "I spent the last 3 days thinking about everything. About Pa, about Blackwood, about my leg. And I realized something. Being angry at you doesn't change what happened. It just means I lose the one person who's never stopped fighting for me." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I should have told you sooner." "Maybe, but I understand why you didn't." Eli reached across the table and took her hand. "I forgive you, Clara. I forgive Pa too. The only one I can't forgive is Blackwood, and he's already going to prison. So we're all right." Eli smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him in days. "We're all right." Clara stood and pulled him into a fierce embrace. "I love you, little brother." "Love you too." Eli hugged her back. "Now can we eat? I'm starving." The laughter that followed broke the tension that had hung over the ranch for days. Even Wyatt was grinning as he passed the biscuits. "There's something else," Eli said between mouthfuls of eggs. "I've been working on a project in the workshop. Want to show you all after breakfast." "What kind of project?" Bertie asked. "You'll see." They gathered outside the workshop an hour later. Eli stood in front of the closed doors, looking nervous but excited. "I've been thinking about what I can contribute to this ranch," he said. "Everyone keeps telling me I have value, that my leg doesn't define me. But I needed to prove it to myself." He opened the doors. Inside stood a complicated contraption made of wood, metal, and rope. Clara couldn't make sense of it at first. "What is it?" she asked. "It's a pulley system for loading hay bales into the loft." Eli moved inside, demonstrating. "See? You hook the bale here, pull this lever, and the whole thing lifts up and swings into position. One person can do the work of 3. Sam stepped forward, examining the mechanism with practiced eyes. "This is impressive work, son. I figured since we lost the hay barn in the fire, we'll need to rebuild. And when we do, this system could save a lot of labor." Eli's voice gained confidence. "I've got other ideas too. A better irrigation system for the vegeting garden. A mechanical seed planter. Things that could make the ranch more efficient." Wyatt walked around the contraption, nodding slowly. "You built this in 3 days." "Mostly. Some of it I'd been designing in my head for months." "It's remarkable." Wyatt turned to face him. Eli, I'd like to make you an offer. Instead of just working in the stables, how would you feel about becoming our ranch mechanic, designing and building equipment, improving our systems? I'll pay you a proper wage and you can have the workshop as your own." Eli's face lit up. "You mean it?" "I do." Clara watched her brother shake hands with Wyatt, his shoulders straight, his chin high. The broken boy she'd protected for 4 years was becoming a man. And for the first time, she realized she could let him. The weeks that followed were the happiest Clara had ever known. Wedding preparations consumed everyone's attention. Bertie took charge of the dress, insisting on ordering fabric from Denver. Sam organized the ranch hands to build an arbor for the ceremony. And the women of Cedar Hollow, who had once gossiped about Clara's scandalous arrival, now competed to contribute food and decorations. "Amazing how quickly people change their tune when there's a wedding involved," Clara observed to Wyatt one evening. "People follow power," he said. "Blackwood had it, and they were scared of him. Now he's gone, and they're eager to be on the winning side." "That's rather cynical." "It's honest." Wyatt pulled her close. "But some people are genuine. Bertie, Sam, the hands who stayed loyal when things got hard. Those are the ones worth keeping." Clara leaned into him. "And you? Are you worth keeping? I reckon that's for you to decide." She kissed him instead of answering. Some things didn't need words. The wedding was set for the last Saturday in August, exactly 2 months after Clara and Eli had arrived at Silver Creek as frightened strangers. The night before the ceremony, Clara sat on the porch with Bertie watching the stars appear one by one. "Nervous?" Bertie asked. "A little. It still feels unreal. 3 months ago, I was standing on an auction block thinking my life was over. Now I'm about to marry the man who saved us." "Wyatt didn't save you." Bertie's voice was gentle but firm. "You saved yourself. All he did was give you a chance. You're the one who proved you deserved it." Clara considered this. "I never thought of it that way." "Most women don't. We're taught to believe we need rescuing. But the truth is, the strongest people I've ever known are women who rescued themselves." Bertie patted her hand. "You and Wyatt are equals, Clara. Don't ever forget that." "I won't." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Bertie spoke again. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. About Wyatt. About why he's been alone so long. I know about Margaret and Daniel." "Yes, but there's more. After they died, Wyatt shut down completely. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't eat, wouldn't leave his room. I thought I was going to lose him." Bertie's voice thickened. Then one day he came out and said he was going to rebuild the ranch, make it the biggest, most successful operation in the territory. I think he believed that if he worked hard enough, he could outrun the grief. "Did it work?" "For a while. But you can't outrun yourself forever." Bertie looked at Clara with knowing eyes. "Then you came along. And something changed in him. He started living again, instead of just surviving." Clara felt tears prick at her eyes. "I love him, Bertie. I know you do. And he loves you. That's why tomorrow isn't just a wedding. It's a resurrection. For both of you." The wedding day dawned clear and warm. Clara stood in her bedroom wearing the white dress Bertie had helped her create. It was simple but elegant, with lace at the collar and cuffs, and a train that swept the floor. "You look beautiful," Eli said from the doorway. She turned to face him. He was wearing a new suit, his hair combed neatly, his bad leg hidden beneath the fine fabric. "So do you." "Men aren't beautiful." But he was smiling. "Will you walk me down the aisle?" Eli's smile faltered. "Me." "But Clara, I can't. My leg." "You're the only family I have left. The only person who's been with me through everything." Clara took his hand. "I can't think of anyone I'd rather have beside me." Eli's eyes glistened. "I'd be honored." They made their way downstairs where Bertie was waiting with a bouquet of wildflowers. "Ready?" she asked. Clara looked at her brother, her friend, her found family. Ready. The ceremony was held beneath the arbor Sam's men had built. The entire ranch had gathered along with neighbors, townspeople, and even Marshal Barrett, who had ridden back from Austin just for the occasion. Clara walked slowly, matching her pace to Eli's careful steps. The music played. The guests rose, but all she could see was Wyatt waiting at the end of the aisle. He was wearing a black suit with a white shirt, his dark hair combed back, his eyes shining with emotion. When he saw her, his face transformed into an expression of such pure love that Clara nearly stumbled. "Who gives this woman to be married?" Reverend Miller asked. "I do." Eli's voice was strong and clear. "On behalf of our father Charles Thornton and our mother Mary, who loved her more than anything in this world." He placed Clara's hand in Wyatt's and stepped back. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Miller began. Clara barely heard the words. All she could focus on was Wyatt's hand in hers, warm and steady and real. "Do you, Wyatt Jackson Cole, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part?" "I do." "And do you, Clara May Thornton, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part?" Clara looked into Wyatt's eyes and saw her future there. Not the desperate survival she'd known for so long, but something brighter, something worth fighting for. "I do." "Then, by the power vested in me by God and the great state of Texas, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Reverend Miller smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Wyatt cupped her face in his hands and kissed her deeply. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Clara barely noticed. In that moment, there was only Wyatt, only this, only the beginning of their new life together. The celebration that followed lasted well into the night. There was dancing and music and more food than Clara had ever seen. Speeches were made, toasts were raised, and through it all, Clara felt wrapped in a cocoon of happiness she'd never expected to find. As the evening wore on, she found a quiet moment alone with Eli on the porch. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Happy, truly happy." She looked at him. "And you? Are you happy here?" "Happier than I've ever been." Eli gazed out over the ranch at the land that had become their home. "Rosie Whitmore was here earlier, Doc's daughter. I saw you talking to her. She's different. She doesn't look at me like I'm broken. She looks at me like I'm—" He struggled for the word. "Like you're exactly who you're supposed to be." Eli nodded slowly. "Yeah, exactly like that." Clara put her arm around his shoulders. "Maybe there's another wedding in our future. Don't get ahead of yourself." But Eli was smiling. "One thing at a time." Wyatt appeared in the doorway. "There you two are. Birdie's looking for you, Clara. Something about cutting the cake." "Duty calls." Clara kissed Eli's cheek. "We'll talk more tomorrow." As she moved toward the door, Eli called after her. "Clara?" She turned. "Yeah." "Thank you. For never giving up on me. For fighting when I couldn't fight for myself. For believing I was worth saving." Clara felt her heart swell. "You never needed saving, Eli. You just needed someone to see you clearly. And now you can see yourself." She went inside to cut the cake, leaving her brother standing in the moonlight, taller and stronger than he'd ever been. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the ranch had fallen quiet, Clara and Wyatt stood on the porch of their home. Their home. "What are you thinking about?" Wyatt asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "About how much has changed. 3 months ago I had nothing. No home, no family, no hope." Clara leaned back against him. "Now I have everything." "Not everything." Wyatt's voice was teasing. "We haven't rebuilt the hay barn yet." She laughed. "You know what I mean." "I do." He kissed the top of her head. "And I feel the same way. You and Eli brought this place back to life. Brought me back to life." Clara turned in his arms to face him. "What happened to us was terrible. The auction, the fire Blackwood, all of it. But if none of that had happened, we never would have found each other." "You believe that?" "I have to, because the alternative is believing that there's no meaning to any of it, and I can't accept that. Not anymore." Wyatt held her close. "Then let's make meaning. Together. Every day for the rest of our lives." "That sounds like a plan." They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the stars wheel slowly overhead. In the distance, a coyote howled. The horses stirred in the barn. And somewhere in the house, Bertie was singing softly as she put away the last of the dishes. This was home. This was family. This was love. And Clara May Thornton Cole finally understood something her father had tried to tell her in his final letter. Be brave and be free. She had been brave enough to survive the worst, and now she was free enough to embrace the best. Not because someone had rescued her, not because luck had finally turned in her favor, but because she had refused to give up, refused to stop fighting, refused to let the darkness win. And in the end, that was the only rescue that mattered, the rescue that came from within. As the night deepened and the stars burned bright above Silver Creek Ranch, Clara made a silent promise to herself. She would never forget where she'd come from. The auction block, the terror, the uncertainty. But she would never let it define her either. Because Clara May Thornton Cole had learned the most important lesson of all. The past could wound you. The present could challenge you. But the future belonged to those brave enough to claim it. And she was ready. She was finally completely, unshakably ready. To live, to love, to build something that would last. This was her home now. This was her family. And nothing would ever take that away from her again.